Hi everyone, this is Tom Ray again with UNLV The Center. I am a program coordinator for the UNLV Gear Up program. Today we're going to talk to you about college breakdown and tuition costs. This is part of the Financial Aid 101 series. Now there's actually a lot that goes into this. Many people don't recognize or realize how much college can cost, or they underestimate their budget. So before we get into the main components, here are some questions that you might want to start thinking about early if you're about to attend college, or if you're a parent and you're trying to prepare for your child's tuition. So some intangibles that aren't accounted for may be airplane tickets and hotel visits to tour the school preemptively while they're making their selection. Another thing is, every time they want to make a trip, you have to consider the location of the college. Will it be by car? Will you be flying? And how much those plane tickets again would cost. Other things that parents and students might not think about is, would the student be staying over at the college or dormitory in the summer? Are they going to be renting an apartment instead? These things have to be factored in, and they also have to be multiplied by the amount of years that the participant is going to school. So if they're getting an associate's degree, they would be going to college for 2 years. And if they're getting a bachelor's degree, that would be 4 years. And again, some schools have master's and PhD programs for the graduate schools, and those are 2 to 6 years respectively. So it's always good to plan accordingly for all years and to be able to figure out if budgeting will work for that, or if the parent needs to retire, and certain things like that will affect how funding can be provided. The main source of funding for college most students are familiar with is the FAFSA application, which is the free application for federal student aid. This application typically awards up to a maximum of $6,000 per year for a Pell Grant to cover, but there's a lot of other costs that must be covered on the student's behalf. Anything extra that's given to the student will also be given as a refund check, where they can use it to buy a car, buy clothes, or buy books. Other things that you have to consider is whether the institution is private or public. Private schools are generally funded for profit, meaning that it's a business and there's a CEO or someone who is making sure that their college is paying their staff adequately and they're generating a profit. And there's also public institutions which receive more government funding or federal funding, and there's a distinguishment between these two categories. Also, when you go to college, you have to consider if you're going in-state, out-of-state, or if you're studying abroad. So each of these will have different costs, and we're gonna break that down in this video now. So first off, if you're staying in-state, tuition is generally cheaper because you've been going to school in this community, and they want to keep the talent in-house. They don't want you to go through K through 12 at your school and then all of a sudden decide to take all of your knowledge, all of your wisdom and experiences and move to a different state. So they make it better for the student by paying in-state prices. Let's use UNLV as an example. For this year, 2021 to 2022, a Nevada resident that's going for their undergraduate degree, which is their bachelor's degree or associates, they are paying $4,524 in tuition alone. This is just the cost of the classes, and books are not included. However, let's say you're a student that lives in Hawaii and you want to go to UNLV for the hotel and hospitality program, then you would have to pay $12,569, which is 3 times the cost of an in-state resident. This is true across all states, meaning that if you're a student that goes to school in Colorado, in-state tuition at Colorado would be cheaper for you than any other school. Out-of-state tuition is generally 200 to 300% more expensive than in-state tuition. So for all of the students who want to study outside and leave their parents' home, think very carefully about how you're gonna have to budget for that. And especially careful if you want to take out a loan. Because even if a student cannot pay back those loans and they have to file for bankruptcy, bankruptcy does not erase student loan debt. So that's the one thing that students have to keep in consideration. It's always better to budget and plan accordingly. A typical tuition will have 3 basic categories. They'll have tuition and fees, which is your class costs, as well as technology fees or using the facilities on campus. And then there will be a room and board. Now, room and board is basically the dormitory that you'll be staying at, and it will also include food. So most universities have a dining commons or a place where students can eat X amount of times per day. And when you buy a room and board package, sometimes they'll give you 60 meals per semester or 80 meals per semester or something like that. And there'll be a flat cost for it. So you'll be buying all of the meals up front along with your dorm expenses. In this example, room and board is broken up per year. However, some colleges will break it down per semester. The next thing that we want to look at is books and supplies. College textbooks are extremely expensive, so you always want to find yourself trying to get the best deal. Some bookstores will do price matching, but if they don't, you can find the ISBN on Amazon. You can rent your textbook and check in with your campus library to see if there's a textbook that you can borrow. As we can see, the travel and other expense may not be accounting for the summer, and it also may not be accounting for when your parents might want to fly up to attend an event. Let's say you are a performing arts major and you have recitals or things like that. So these things may not be accounted for too. So those are those hidden expenses that we have to really be mindful of. So moving on from this, I know we talked about in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition. Out-of-state tuition, again, was 200 to 300% more expensive than in-state tuition, but there's a select group of schools that fit in something called the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, or also known as WUI. This program is so that if you are listed in one of the states below highlighted in red, students would only have to pay 150% of in-state tuition instead. The Western states formed an alliance so that students could basically travel between their states, and you would have to check with the college recruiter or the school to make sure that they are listed on this program. You can also visit the WUI website listed in the links below and see if your school that you're interested in is listed. Finally, I would like to talk about study abroad. Studying abroad is really fun because you can select multiple schools from outside of the United States. Some students decide to go study in Japan, some in Europe, some in Russia, and these programs are very lucrative. The cost may be a lot higher than studying out of state or in-state, but typically students who study abroad will be eligible for a stipend if they apply for it. Once you get to college, you want to check with that school's study abroad program, and they will have resources and information on how you can sign up. And when you're there, you might be asked to teach class, such as English, or do some community service work, or work for a research study, and they will pay you a stipend or provide room and board for you. So again, check with your local university that you eventually apply to and get in to be qualified to enter their study abroad program. This concludes the college cost breakdown video. We went over in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, room and board, study abroad, and the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program. If you have more questions, feel free to contact your Gear Up or TRIO coordinator at your local middle and high schools, and we will be more than happy to help you. Thank you and have a great day.